Welcome to our group discussion for the container security group. Zamir, it looks like you've got the first item.
Myself? Oh, the demo. Yeah, I just we were able to have CAS and Agent K working in staging. So then it's way easier than setting up the local environment. So then I just created a video to help people going through the steps. It's like basically 3 steps to get this done.
Yeah, I watched that today and great job on that. I'm super excited to see all the progress we've made and to have it up and running on staging is a big deal. That means we actually have some good end-to-end testing starting to happen. So glad to hear that. Let's see, Lindsay had a couple of items for planning breakdown and says she's not going to be present. I'm not sure what she wanted done with these. So let's see, create end-to-end test for project level alerts dashboard is the first one.
So this was created as part of an OKR to improve knowledge of end-to-end tests for our engineers, and we also don't have end-to-end tests for container security any. So we'd like to create some. With the planning breakdown, it's basically answering the questions that we always ask, like, are the requirements clear enough? Do we know what the dependencies are? And do we need to break it down in multiple iterations? So I can see that I'm the only person who's actually read the issue. Do we want to do it asynchronously, or do we want to have a quick read and try to answer the questions?
I think this ties into one of the discussions I have in the meeting notes further down about what's left to release alerts. And, you know, it's this one talks about end-to-end testing. The second issue that Lindsay brought up is talk about load testing for the alerts. Are these two things necessary for release?
I think the first one is a nice to have for the release, but I think is essential for medium to long term. The second one, I believe, is a must have for the release, but it's also a manual effort. It's
both of them we need to do. I mean, we need to do good testing in order to release, but the tests don't have to be automated, you know, fully automated for us to get it out the door. So we should be doing an end-to-end test. We should be doing some kind of load testing. I mean, we should be taking a little bit of time to poke at this thing. You know, the thing, again, like the number one concern that I have is, are we going to crash Kubernetes, right? Like we look back at our history with mod security and there was a memory leak where we didn't notice it until it was running in production in customer environments. And after it had run for 2 to 3 days, then this memory leak showed up and it would crash their application. That's the last thing we want to have happen here. So, you know, little bugs in like our UI, or if we even just crash GitLab, that's nowhere near as bad as crashing the customer's application, right? So I would say with any testing time that we have available, that should be the thing that we poke at the most.
So to talk about the risk management there, the probability of this affecting the cluster is different to what we had in the past, because Zamir, and this is where I'm going to need your help. As I understand, the agent runs in its own container. So if it crashes, it's going to crash itself. It doesn't affect anything else in the Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah, the reason that the deployment of CAS is taking longer to Gitlabcom is that the SDE team is it's working on the this kind of testing. They are setting up a couple of instances of GitLab, and they are watching how CAS is behaving. They are kind of trying to test this integration over time and see the behaviors before they actually put on Gitlabcom. So then in terms of CAS and Agent K as a whole, there's a kind of black box testing happening.
But
So,
in terms of the only thing that runs on the customer cluster, say that they're running GitLab somewhere else and the cluster is running their applications, Agent K is the only thing that runs in there, right? CAS will run whatever they run in GitLab.
yeah, some people might have the whole setup in the cluster, GitLab, CAS,
Cool.
and everything. So then in this case, if CAS has an issue, that would be, but in the case that you're mentioning now that you have GitLab somewhere else, and you just have the cluster integrated in our pipe through the certificated based integration, then Agent K would be the only one running the cluster.
And the other difference is we're not in the path of Ingress. Agent K is not on the path of Ingress, whereas mod security was running, it was part of Ingress, was the reverse proxy.
Exactly.
So if
Yeah,
that crashes, you can't reach the apps.
Yeah, it was breaking the whole Ingress for mod security.
So we still need to do the testing. I think it's less likely we'll have these sort of issues. So out of these two, do we have opinions on what we should prioritize?
So it looks like both of these are talking about like creating automated tests is my understanding would be the goal with both of these. So I would expect that the testing for the MVC would be considered in the scope of the MVC itself. In fact, I think there's a testing section.
I don't see automation on the load testing. Is there the issue? Doesn't say. There are tools to perform it, but it doesn't imply automation, I think.
That's true.
I think, I'm sorry, Zam, I cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I agree with Sam. Like anything that requires automation, I don't think is necessary for release. Like I think we should be testing this. I think we should be load testing this, but automating them, one or both or whatever, is not. And so I think we should push off the planning breakdown of the automated end-to-end test until later on, seeing how we have not reviewed it yet. And then, yeah, and then the other one, I don't think I'm assuming, I haven't clicked on it yet, so I'm assuming no one's looked at that either. But that one does feel like it should be looked at and talked about before release. But Zamir said it's not even an issue, so.
So if he breaks, it's on him.
Yeah.
I'd love to get the load testing done.
Yeah.
So we really just need to answer here right now if the description wasn't there, it's clear enough, or we can do it offline.
It says in the description, this is not a requirement for MVC, but would be ideal.
Yeah.
But given like mod security and that history, it seems like we should really look into this.
I don't hear any questions. Sounds like we can go ahead and move that to refinement.
Yeah.
Cool with that? All right.
Does anybody think this would take more than a milestone to do, or does it need to be broken down, or is it a one-person job? You're allowed to get help. You're allowed to ask for help, but
it's going to be manual, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think one milestone should be good.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll label this as refinement, and we'll pick someone to look into it.
Great. So then other topics to discuss. I know we've had a lot of asynchronous discussion about Trivy versus Claire. We're getting to the point where we need to make a decision. So I just wanted to circle up with the group. You know, we've had a lot, again, asynchronously in the issue. It's looking like the decision here is to go with Trivy. Is there, you know, I guess before we make that a finalized decision, are there any other concerns with that? And my second question would be, do we have at least a high level estimate of like how long it's going to take us to switch over? I was talking with Tiago in my one-on-one, maybe roughly a month, one person for a month, but just wanted to socialize that with the rest of the team and see if that felt about right.
And this is on either technology, either language, whether we go with GCS or CLA.
Correct. I'm not asking that question now. I'm just asking the Trivy Claire question.
Well, it seems like, yeah, so I've done a POC in Go, and we also have GCS. So it looks like we got two tools that are pretty much, ready to go when you want to switch to Trivy. There needs to be, just some additional work for either, implementation, either the Go or Ruby implementation, but we're in a pretty good spot with both tools, with both languages.
I was comfortable telling Sam that whatever our choice is, we should be able to do this in one milestone. Does anyone disagree strongly?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, there's going to be some unknowns. There's going to be some things that maybe we didn't think about, the way that Trivy represents, even though we've done a kind of deep dive and investigation into it, maybe there's some things that we might have missed. But for the most part, yeah, I think that there's not really going to be a ton of surprises here. And so I think one milestone is fine.
I know it's a different question, but we do have the issue there to decide whether we want to use GCS or CLA. And the reason this matters is that the sooner we decide, we would be able to start the work on 13.10. And the reason I would like to start on 13.10 is because if we release this on 13.10, then we get two milestones where, I don't know if we use a feature flag or some other way to keep the version of the scanner that uses Claire, and have a version of the scanners that uses Trivy, and we can run them sort of in parallel, and we will have two full milestones to figure out if there's any major issues before switching the default scanner to Trivy in 14.0.
Can I just ask if how many people are going to be working on this? Because we have the DEST, we have the project scanner orchestration, security orchestration part of the project, and also we have alerts. So then I was wondering how that would be played out for the 13.10.
Be up to one person on this. No more than one person on container scanning, on the container scanner.
Yeah, we probably have one person on this, and then obviously Alexander, most of his time would still be on the alerts improvements, since those are very front end heavy. I think there's like one that has a small back end component to it, but that would let the rest of the engineering team work on the security orchestration work.
And that one person on this would be Adam, I take it.
To be decided.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the language. If it's implemented in Ruby, it sounds like it'd probably be John. And if it's implemented in Go, maybe it'd be me.
Yeah, so. Or if you want to do it as well, Adam, if you want to take off the rust off your Ruby.
Yeah, I could, but at the same time, it seems like, GCS is kind of John's baby.
His baby, yeah.
I prefer, it'd probably be, better for him to work on it.
Yeah.
And I could work on some Go related stuff.
We do have other toys, including Golang stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to respond to some of the comments in the issue, so we can, I've got some other responses. So
Yeah, I'm giving everyone time until Friday, so nobody's rushing this through. But then I'll read through it and make a call.
Great. Well, we'll call the decision to go with Trivy official then at this point. I mean, one person for one milestone is totally worth it from my perspective. So then.
Yeah, and we mentioned on our 101, Sam, but I didn't bring it up. Just to bring it up here, we do have that issue with the vulnerabilities DB on Claire. Adam, I don't know if you've been following.
Yeah, it's out of date, right?
Yeah, Mathieu asked you for an opinion there, or was it my confusion issues now? But we basically stuck on upstream, I think.
Yeah, so our plan right now is to not fix that one anymore and just go full speed ahead with the move to Trivy. If that needs to change, I'm sure customers will let us know. But otherwise, you know, for the sake of moving forward, rather than spending time to continue to build on old code, that, you know,
I agree with that.
Try to move forward with Trivy and, you know, let that issue sit, you know, leave it open for customers to comment on. If there's a major problem, we may end up needing to change plans, but for now, let's allocate our time towards Trivy.
So I think what I'll do with that issue is right now is an S2P2. I'm gonna leave the severity, but I'll reduce the priority because we've just made a decision that impacts the priority. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I'll do that, and then if customers tell us that no, this is causing real issues, we'll bump the priority again, and then we'll probably need to bring the update project into GitLab and run it inside GitLab. That's it on that topic. But I agree with your point there, Sam. I do think we're better off spending the resources on putting Trivy in a good place, stabilizing Trivy.
All right, any other questions or comments on that section before we move to Alexander's topic? All right, Alexander, you're up.
Cool. So this is just going back to the question I asked earlier. What is left to release alerts? I know there's documentation that needs to be done. I just put up an MR today for the front end docs, and I can see I'm getting some feedback. Zamir has commented that he's going to be able to put some documentation for the back end, which is excellent. He's also got several videos of how to set this up in GitLab, set it up in your local environment, all of which could be used in the release post. Sam has the release post going. That's great. Testing, we've talked about that. There needs to be, oh, and Sam is filling out some things right now. There should be some end-to-end testing. We need to, I should actually check the MVC epic to see if there's an issue for that. But basically, I'm just trying to collect all the issues left for release.
Just for the sake of clarification, there's no way that we can crash the cluster. The worst thing that can happen is that the agent just crash and the pod just keep trying to respin the new image. That's the most that can happen.
Yeah, that brings a lot of comfort. So
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
Speaking of which, there's in the UI, there's still a warning when you enable the alert that something about load. Does that need to be updated then?
I think that's still accurate. So the agent should have throttling mechanisms in place where if somebody tries to collect an alert on every single piece of traffic that comes through, you know, obviously that we're not set up to handle like this mass load of alerts coming in. So it's going to throttle itself and start dropping alerts rather than feeding them into the GitLab API and into our database. Correct me if I'm wrong, Zamir. So
yeah, and there is ongoing discussion as well. Sorry to cut you off.
The alert you have there is still valid.
Yeah, there is ongoing discussion about how the specifics of the limits are going to be working on the agent side. I think they're going to play out with maybe a different architecture that what they have now. So I'm gonna check with the guys from Configure, and I can post a link somewhere for us to keep a look on that.
Awesome. So looking at the MVC, then I see the doc updates. I see review load testing capabilities. I don't see an issue for end-to-end testing capabilities, but Sam, we should do some end-to-end tests and some load testing. So I guess we should create an issue just talking about someone going through and setting it up, though I guess Zamir already did that. Does that count as end-to-end testing?
Yeah, that counts as, I think we've done that end-to-end test as far as I'm concerned, because Zamir, you created an alert, you fired an alert, it showed up in the dashboard. I don't know if we've tried to dismiss an alert already, but that would sort of be the last piece of that end-to-end test. So I would consider that one done or well, nearly done.
And I check if the aggregation is working as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So then docs, load testing, and then turning the feature flag on by default to be default. Sounds like our last 3 remaining tasks. And as we are getting through those, I mean, everybody feel free to just like poke around with some of the alerts and try to do things in the UI. That'll build our confidence in this.
Yeah, and given the architecture that we've described, I would say, it's even in that issue. I don't think the load testing has to be a blocker for release. So, if we can get that done before we release, that would be great, just to give ourselves a little bit more confidence. But, if the worst that can happen is that our own pod keeps crashing, that's a pretty safe place to be in. I'm not too worried.
Cool. Do we need to, then for the feature flag, do we need to wait until the docs are in, or can we just set it to true by default now?
We need docs.
We need docs, yeah.
Okay.
So docs
Okay.
are the only thing preventing the feature flag at this point.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Well, was that everything, Alexander? Just to...
Yep. Sorry, can I ask a question? On feature flag, we have enabled per project. Can we enable it for the whole staging as a whole? Or have we enabled for staging as a whole?
Oh, I thought you did that. That's
Yeah, I don't remember. Okay,
you did,
I don't remember.
You did.
I did.
It's allowed
Thank
for
you.
all staging.
All right, awesome. All right. Yeah, so that's different. We can do that for our own instance, but switching the flag on by default means that any customers with a self-managed instance that would be available for them as well. Sorry, we should not do that for Gitlabcom for the same reasons. Switch it to default. Switch it on production, or switch it on by default until we have docs.
Cool. Then when that docs issue gets merged, then we will move forward with the feature flag.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question that we might be forgetting? CAS is still not enabled in Gitlab.com. Should we wait for that to have the release post?
No, I'm going to go ahead with the release post for a few reasons. One, when I talked with Victor, they're planning to start turning CAS on for select customers on GitLab.com. So not for everyone, but for some customers. And of course, it's there for self-managed. I think we can just go ahead and announce it. I mean, it's dependent on CAS, but that's just going to drive customers to go and ask Victor to turn it on for them on .com, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we can go ahead and do the full release post.
And hey, we've done it, right? We did it. Let's release it. Send it out.
Send it out. Let's claim victory.
That's it.
Well, I know we're technically just past the 25 minutes. If you need to drop, feel free. I wanted to share just really quick, as we were talking about container scanning, it crossed my mind that we've got a number of other issues that, you know, would be really nice to address at the same time. So I just wanted to share these real briefly with the group. This is not like a planning breakdown or anything. I just wanted to call some attention to them. So in our priorities here, and I probably need to reorder these a little bit, but a big one is to stop using root in the CLAR analyzer. That's preventing us from running on OpenShift. And then we actually have a few that are really documentation related. This allow list usage, our documentation is not great at the moment, and it's confusing customers. And so that would be, you know, another area to consider, just updating some of these documentation pieces that are not super clear. And then I probably need to move this one up, but this is one that's come up a few times since I've been over container scanning, where
It's the one you're talking with Nicole.
yeah, we're not deduplicating our findings in a way that meets all customers' use cases. It works for some customers, it does not work for others. So we probably need to change our default setting there, and then also let that be customizable, because, you know, there's going to be no way to do this for every customer. We need to, you know, let them customize this and adjust for their own areas. So I just want to these out.
That's the one that I pinged Adam about.
Yeah, I need to look into that further, because yeah, I need to spend some time thinking about that, because there's so much is based on the identifiers of this stuff, and we could run into, like, you know, a lot of really strange behavior that's really hard to debug because people have overridden, you know, these identifiers. I'll look at it and write some comments.
Yeah, that'd be
Thank
great.
you.
I mean, we're in the middle of this, you know, move to Trivy, maybe not a move from Go to Ruby, depending on what gets decided.
It doesn't matter. That's going to be a problem either side. And Adam knows the context of. I think I remember this being changed, and it wasn't an easy thing to do.
John changed it, and you had some questions about it that I responded with a long comment, which I can link here. But yeah, there's a lot of considerations around this, and I'm sure it's possible to be flexible, but the downside is that it could introduce a lot of really tricky behavior.
No, absolutely. So I have a proposal in there that I think will help, but, you know, welcome any feedback there. And again, I just wanted to bring some visibility to those issues, since, you know, we talked a lot about container scanning today, and I don't know who's going to end up doing that work, but it would be good for them to at least, you know, have these issues in the back of their mind as they're doing some of that work. Great. Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate your time today. Have a good week.
Bye, friends.